From hotel quarantine to checking in at shops and other public places, much of what seemed normal during the pandemic has faded away.
Downloading the app is like putting on sunscreen to go out into the sun. It gives us protection as a nation.
In 2020, the federal government's COVIDSafe app was billed as Australia's ticket to freedom.
Someone you've had contact with has tested.
From tomorrow, the app will be history. It's been decommissioned after the new Labor government branded it an expensive failure.
The most fundamental problem was the COVIDSafe app didn't work very often.
Our path back depends on 3 critical things before restrictions can be eased.
The app relied on a Bluetooth signal to make contact with other users nearby. If someone tested positive to COVID, state and territory governments could request access to the phone log to work out close contacts. But communications between locked Androids and iPhones was often poor.
Download COVIDSafe today.
There's a recognised issue with Apple phones. There are some issues if there are other apps open and so forth, and Apple themselves are working through that.
Dr Bridget Hare was part of a joint study of the app's effectiveness in New South Wales. The assessment wasn't favourable.
I think that our study showed that the app wasn't working well enough to be useful for the contact tracers. So it was creating a lot of noise and extra work by finding false close contacts and not finding true ones. And when I say false close contacts, it was doing things like picking up people who were in restaurants next door to each other, but there were walls between them, so no actual contact would take place.
The app has cost taxpayers a total of $21 million. It identified just 17 close contacts that hadn't already been picked up by contact tracers, and even fewer positive cases.
I'm here to tell you about the new COVIDSafe app, which will help protect you, your family.
Dr Nick Coatsworth helped sell the app to the Australian public. He says while the app had little impact on disease control, it was worth a try.
I think to call it a failure with the benefit of hindsight is probably a little bit rich. I think what would have happened, given the prevalence of smartphone use in Australia, if we had not adopted an app-based solution, the first question would have been, why aren't we doing that?
The COVIDSafe app was based on Singapore's Trace Together app, rather than software supported by Apple and Google.
Famously, Google and Apple offered the Australian government their expertise in creating this new application, and the government said, no, thank you.
I suspect that there's no good example of smartphone-based apps actually having a meaningful intervention in disease control in the world.
The health department says it's working to delete all the COVIDSafe app data as soon as possible, and that none of that data will be retained. Last year, it was revealed police in West Australia and Queensland had accessed data gathered by other state-based QR code check-in apps to solve crimes.
It's absolutely important that the government follows through on its commitment to destroy all personal information collected through the COVIDSafe app. That's what they promised to do. It's a massive issue in public trust. What that ends up doing is that it discourages people from using the app in the first place. So that basic public health initiative ends up being compromised.
Those who have studied the COVIDSafe app hope there is a place for such technology should a tracing app be needed again.
I think that technology is improving all the time. It seems like a really good idea. I think the critical thing is with a new technology that you have the proper checks and balances in the system in place. It also would have been really good if before the app were rolled out, if there had been some real world testing.
I think as a country we would have been quite willing to spend a significant amount of money if what it allowed us to do was get on with our normal lives. But that relies on the app working as intended.